Hello every pony and welcome back to another Pony and Wolf Productions video. My name once again is visualbrony, and here is a list of those amazing people who keeps this channel alive with their monthly donations. And today we are reading the story Alcia by the author Fön or Foen. I don't exactly know how to pronounce this, but you will see his name on screen, and it is of course, as always, in the name of this video. So, without further ado, I will also remind you that there's a big button under this video, and if it is still red, that means you have not yet subscribed to Pony and Wolf Productions. And that means you will not be notified about our newest releases. What are you doing? Come on, newest releases, new videos every day. Okay, now let's get into the meat of the story, because I know for a fact that I am really annoying you right now. Memories, images, once they are fixed in words, are erased, Polo said. Perhaps I am afraid of losing Venice all at once, if I speak of it. Or perhaps, speaking of other cities, I have lost it little by little. Italo Calvino, Invisible Cities. If you were to ask a pony to tell you of the center of Equestria, its heart, they would speak to you of Canterlot, the mountain city and the seat of the sun on high. They would be wrong. Far to the south of Canterlot, beyond the Everfree and the Badlands, in the true center of the equestrian continent, there lies a forest. On occasion, a passing traveler may tell tales of an ancient city deep within its depths, lost to the passages of nature and time. In this, the forest is hardly unique. Ponies speak of many such cities. Only in the heart of winter, when the nights are long and high above in their cities of clouds the air turns breath to frost, do the Pegasi speak of Saren, the midnight city. The ponies of Saren worshipped the gods of ice and the long dark, and the gods of the endless sky, and so in their image was the city of Saren built. Above the great plains, above mountains and clouds, the ponies spun domes and towers from the very air itself. Out of wind and sod they wrought casements and archways of nothing that would look out upon the sky and claim it as their own. Under the harsh light of day, the stories say, Saren was all but invisible. But at night, bathed in the gentle glow of the moon and lit by 1,000 splendid stars, Saren shone. So too do the Pegasi speak of the ponies of Saren who would shape themselves in the sky's image, their likeness growing ever closer to that of their city of the air. And when storms passed through the distant streets of Saren, and solid walls gave way to vaulted ceilings lit by the sky in all its fury, the ponies of Saren could be seen dancing on gales and leaping from thunderbolts, air and pony all the same. Thus was the city of Saren, a monument to the everlasting sky and its people, until one day the wind changed. Only during those twilight days between summer and fall, between beginnings and endings, do the unicorns speak of Arcadia, the city of mirrors. To speak of Arcadia, one must speak of the 1,000 towers that comprised the city, each and every one unique in its splendor. So flawless were their surfaces, it is said, so peerless their craftsmanship, that each towering wall and vaulted balustrade formed a mirror that reflected the true essence and beauty of all before it. But there was another Arcadia, and it was seen in every silvered wall, every pool of still water. And where all the lines of the real Arcadia were smooth and curved, the lines of the mirror Arcadia were straight and harsh and cruel. In the highest spires of Arcadia, the unicorns claim, lived gods of great beauty and power. In their name, the ponies of Arcadia bent the sky itself to cover the city, and rejoiced in the majesty of the heavens surrounding them. This, they proclaimed, was their great legacy. fear us, they said. We can bend the heavens to our will. But there came a day when the ponies of Arcadia could no longer distinguish their city from its reflection and found their highest spires abandoned. It is with the greatest solemnity that the earth ponies speak of Sophia, city of memory. They do not speak of a time before Sophia, for to do so would belie the truth of Sophia's existence. The oldest of things are all of Sophia, and time before them has no meaning. Like an old tome, the legends of the city itself are worn and weathered, but among the chapters of history, some pages have yet to fade. Murmurs of how those who dwelt in Sophia valued the subtle texture of the shadows and how true beauty was found only in the most filtered of light. Fragmented tales of great buildings, vast and heavy in stature, whose shadowed alcoves housed Sophia's greatest treasure. Those that had long ago lost their luster and taken on the smoky grey patina of age. Whispers of how, in those hallowed halls, even the most crude and unrefined of the world's treasures shone like the crystallized air of the ages. In Sophia, the earth ponies claim, lived not gods, but the eldest and wisest of ponies, who would accept only the most ancient of things into their city. Thus, Sophia came to dwarf all else in age, until it too began to fade into the recesses of memory. In time, ponies will speak of Sophia no more, and in this final obscurity the city will be complete. None speak of the city of Aletheia. They do not tell tales of its magic-wrought wonders, buildings of thought and wind that could appear and vanish at one's beck and call. They do not speak of the majesty of its 1,000 splendid towers in which all things past and all things yet to come could be seen. They do not mention the city's great age or the wisdom of its people who were looked upon by lesser beings and called gods. Of the tragedy of its fall or the great sorrow of its passing, there is no mention. Aletheia is the greatest city, is forgotten. In the heart of the equestrian wilderness, there is a vast forest. Those few who on occasion wander past speak of great towers glimpsed within its depth. None venture closer. They know not of the city that waits there, in the long shadows of obscurity, until the time comes that its denizens will again walk its path, and how they too, in time, shall be remembered. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Comment Time with Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through links down in the description below. Every dollar helps us needed and very much appreciated, and helps to keep the lights on around here and to keep, paying my bills, rent, and everything. And also helps to keep me eating, because, food is something that I really need to survive, because, no one has yet found a way to not eat and still live. So, I would very much appreciate it if you at least thought about donating. Okay, now let's get into the meat of the story, because I don't think I can keep speaking this long, this fast for much longer. Bleh. Anyhow, what do I think about this story? I find it interesting because certainly we know that before Equestria was there were other factions like the Earth Ponies, Pegasi, and Unicorns. They were all divided, so it stands to reason that there would be forgotten cities. Especially not just in Equestria itself, because as we know, Equestria is not where all of this, took place, where the pony tribes originally lived. In my opinion, that is something that a lot of the stories actually get wrong. A lot of the fan fictions, if you look at stuff like Upheaval Breaking Point, Upheaval Reckoning and all that, in those stories, everything that happened prior to Hearthwarming Eve, or the Hearthwarming Tale, everything happened in Equestria in those stories. But that's not true. If you look at the Hearthwarming episode, then you see that the ponies actually lived somewhere completely differently, and then traveled somewhere else and found the land that would eventually become Equestria. Which means there is, canonically, a land where the ponies originated and that is potentially filled with all kinds of ancient ruins. Have you ever given that some thought? Personally, I now have, and I think that this is an amazing setting for fanfictions. Just imagine Twilight with her little archaeological hat finding this original home of ponies. That's food for thought, and I might actually write something like that. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and I hope, as always, that this story finds you well in body and mind. Hello every pony and welcome back to Pony&Wolf Productions. My name is, as always, Visual Pony, and it is much cooler now because I'm actually recording this past midnight on the 90th of July 2022. Today we are reading the story Did You Have to Go That Far? By I Am Sinner, a self-described shitposter. His stories we have read on this channel many times before because he posts a lot and they usually have very good quality, even though they are also utterly insane. I'm looking forward to this craziness because the synopsis alone really intrigued me. Anyhow, here is a list of those amazing people who keep this channel alive and, of course, keep me eating. I am quite tired, which is why there is not a lot of energy in this intro right now, but I hope you can forgive me that I will only remind you to please subscribe because it helps out the channel, is completely free, and I don't really want to annoy you right now because, as I said, I'm quite tired. Meow. For the last time, Luna, no, you cannot read my diary. I lock it in my drawer every day and only I have the key. And I'm certainly not bringing it out when you're around. Fine. Tia, I'm going on vacation for a week. Why so sudden? I just felt like it, sister. Good morning, Luna, Celestia gleefully shouted as she barged into her sister's room, only to blink as she looked upon an empty bed. Oh, right, you're on vacation, she harumphed. I so wanted to make you wake up in the morning. Oh well, pancakes for one today, it seems. As she busied herself gathering the ingredients in the kitchen, radiant rays of sunlight peeked through the window as the sun rose above the horizon, slowly ascending into the sky. Celestia gazed out at the sun, the glare not bothering her. She had raised the sun for over an eon after all. Twilight seems to be doing well. I should visit this weekend. There was a knock on the door. Celestia frowned as she looked up from her pancakes. Who was visiting this early in the morning? She stretched her body, cracking her joints a little and letting out a sigh of contentment as she felt her stiffness go away. Putting on a small smile, she trotted over to the door and opened it. Celestia here, how may I help? Meow. Celestia rubbed at her eyes. Was she seeing things? Meow. She apparently was not. Or hearing things. She seemed to be sane. A midnight blue kitten lay in a basket by the doorstep, looking up at her with those, "Why do they have such white and adorable eyes?" Well, hello there, Celestia said soothingly as she lowered herself down to be on eye level with the kitten. Where's your owner? Meow. Figures. She nodded sagely. They abandon you? Meow. This time it was more stretched out, as if the kitten was agreeing with her. Celestia considered the kitten before shrugging. Maybe Luna'll like a kitten. Using her magic, she levitated the basket over to the counter before pouring a bowl of milk out. Here you go, little one, she cooed. Breakfast. The kitten stared at the milk for a moment before padding over to it and tentatively sticking out its tongue and giving it a lick. Its eyes widened before it started enthusiastically drinking the milk as fast as it could. Celestia giggled at the sight like a little filly, grinning wildly. What should I call you? Celestia mused once her giggling had died down. The kitten started preening itself, licking at its paws. It then stretched itself up before taking an almighty leap off the kitchen counter, landing on the ground perfectly. Celestia blinked, her horn already lit up the moment the kitten jumped off, ready to catch it. But it looked as if the kitten was perfectly fine. It then did a series of jumps from the ground and onto stools before it made its way onto the table beside Luna's recliner. It tilted its head at the comfortable-looking couch before jumping on it and lounging on the recliner, making itself at home. Sorry herself, Celestia had just noticed the telltale signs that the kitten was female, and smiled a little at the kitten doing the series of jumps onto the couch. Sure, Luna would be a little annoyed if Cat forgot on her favorite seat, but she wouldn't mind so much if it was a cute kitten. The kitten then yawned, stretching itself out and snuggling itself onto the recliner. Just like how Luna would, every day, after a day helping out around Silver Shores. "I know," Celestia perked up. "I'll call you Moony. Since you look like Luna and act a bit like her, I'll call you Moony. She'll love that." The kitten yawned, but there was a glint of something in its eyes. Maybe it was agreement or consent? "You know," Celestia grinned as she lifted the kitten up using her hooves, before sitting down on the recliner and letting her sit on her. "Luna and I are going to pamper you to bits. You won't even miss your old owner. I was once a princess of Equestria. I ruled over tens of thousands of ponies and creatures, and I took care of them all. And now I'm gonna take care of you, little one." "Meow." Moony yawned. With long, gentle strokes, Celestia started petting Moony, each one eliciting a purr of contentment from the kitten. "I should write about you in my diary," Celestia murmured. "You'd make a great addition, Moony." Moony turned to look up at her with those big, curious and adorable eyes. "My diary," she said with a smile. "I write about everything I experience or do in there. Going to be no exception, Moony. Keeping a kitten, well, that's one of the things I always wanted to do once I retired. I guess I got my wish. Wait here, Moony." She gently slipped the kitten onto the recliner. "I'll grab my diary." She slipped into her room before unlocking the drawer and taking out the white-colored book. She returned to the living room, and when she was about to sit down, there was a knock on the door. "Another visitor?" she thought out loud. "I'll be back, Moony. Take care of my diary for me, will you?" She set the diary beside the kitten. There was no one at the door. "What?" She shrugged and closed it. When she returned to the living room, her eyes widened as she took in the sight. Moony had disappeared, and there was Luna sitting on the recliner, reading her diary. "Wait, I told you I'd read your diary somehow," Luna said with a smirk. "Even if it meant becoming a kitten for a while. I must say your pets are very enjoyable. Shall we do this again someday?" "Seriously, Luna? Just for the diary?" Author's note. Why have I done this? Hello everyone, and this is once again Common Time with Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps, is needed and very much appreciated, and helps to keep me alive and the lights on around here. Anyhow, wow. I mean, it was quite obvious, you know, that this kitten Moony was actually Luna. But I love it. I mean, I love cats. I really love cats. Oh, I'd so love a kitten like that. And if it was in reality Princess Luna, that would be doubly nice, you know, because I like Luna. Anyhow, I am Sinner. You know, I have no idea why you did this, but I certainly like the story. Thumbs up from me. And as always, I hope that this story finds you well in body and mind. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Pony&Wolf Productions video. My name is Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story from Princess Twilight Sparkle, President of the Twinkle Nebula Fry Neutron Family Reunion, by the author Georg. Okay, that is an actually very normal name, that we don't get a lot of normal names on here. Anyhow, so as always, here's a list of those amazing people who keep this channel alive with their monthly donations and enable me to keep eating. Which is always preferable to not eating, Anyhow, I will also remind you that there are links for stuff like our merch store down in the description below, and there's a big button that, if it is still red, means that you have not yet subscribed to Pony&Wolf Productions. What are you doing? You're not getting notified about our newest releases if you don't do that. So press it. It would also, do us a great favor. Anyhow, let's get into the meat of the story, because I know that I am annoying you a great deal right now. Now that the reunion is over. From the desk of Twilight Sparkle. Dear family, friends, and concerned litigants. On behalf of the Twilight Nebula Fry Neutron family reunion, I would like to start this letter out with an apology. For starters, when I invited the yearly family reunion to be held at the Castle of Friendship in Ponyville, I had no idea how many of our family relatives would actually show up. Normal attendance at our reunion in Philadelphia has been hovering around double digits for many years now, and I calculated that the castle guest rooms would be able to accommodate the entire reunion and then some. To my surprise, attendance at this year's 454th reunion exceeded all expectations, coming in at just over 412 ponies at the reunion dinner, plus one special guest who I will get to shortly. A special thanks goes out to BitChute, who has taken responsibility for tracking the family tree, and is a researcher who discovered a relative common to 3 of my friends. Windpipe was a Pegasus back in the early days of Cloudsdale who is a relative by marriage to Fluttershy's family. She had 3 notable offspring. Tweety, an irrepressible prankster Pegasus who we suspect married into the Pie family primarily for the name. Twinkle, the mother of our founding family unicorns. And Twiggy, an Earth pony whose offspring would eventually include the Apple family. Thanks to my friends and newfound relatives, we were able to house all the extra relatives who would not fit into the castle on the evening before. However, Mr. and Mrs. Cake would like to state their disappointment with whatever guest seems to have rearranged Sugar Cube Corner's bakery to match the Fibonacci sequence, and Applejack is still upset at whatever guest was practicing multiplication with her brother, whatever that means. Also, Fluttershy would like to pass along a special request to any pony who stayed at her house and happens to notice a number of small silky objects in their luggage, most probably attached by webbing. Please send them back within the next week. To her, not me. Due to lack of information of their ongoing feud, I regret that the Nebula and the Neutron branches of the family were housed in the same wing of the castle. Although, that was no excuse for the midnight graffiti raids from both sides, leaving derogatory mathematical formulas on each side's doors, as well as a breakfast food fight that still has Spike cleaning scrambled eggs out of the curtains. Incidentally, if anybody will claim room 27B as their work, I believe you may have solved the Neyman hypothesis if you can recreate the area under the scrambled egg stains, regaining the non-trivial 0. Also, we would like to thank whoever fixed the kitchen toaster, and we would appreciate it if you were to send back instructions on how you did it, or even return to demonstrate your technique. The kitchen is now totally filled with toast, and the pressure is growing. Please expedite your reply. I would like to pass a special apology along to the entire reunion in regards to the arrival of Geld Dorhan the Mighty, Spike's mother. It was entirely my fault that I failed to inform Spike that the reunion was supposed to only be for direct relatives of the 4 sisters from the original family, and running around while screaming at the top of my lungs and summoning alternate dimensional copies of myself for support during the event probably was not very helpful to the mental state of the rest of the guests. For those of you who were still hiding or fled after her arrival, Mrs. Mighty did apologize and gave back most of the property which she seized upon breaking through the back wall of the castle and interrupting our reunion dinner. If you are still missing items, please contact Spike with the full description and he will be glad to mail them back to you. Also, if you can find Twilight Sparkle Delta Prime, please notify us at once. She/he is needed back in his/her dimension as soon as possible to stem an invasion of giant ants. Also, I would like to congratulate the family of Gardenia Georgie on her new cutie mark. discovered while she and several other young ponies were being cared for by our own Ponyville Cutie Mark Crusaders in their full-sitting service. Under the tutelage of Scootaloo, she discovered a new closest spherical packing method using a hexagonal array in order to maximize the number of grapes that would fit in her mouth. And by coincidence, the same process worked in her verification experiment to see the number of young ponies who would fit in the broom closet on the first floor of the Castle of Friendship. As much as I would like to invite the family reunion back to my castle next year as planned, I have been served with a restraining order prohibiting it. So, as a compromise location, I have scheduled next year's reunion at my brother's castle in the Crystal Empire. You may have recognized him as the tall stallion in the back of the room who was laughing so much every time something went wrong. In any event, all of us will be more than happy to see you again next year at the 455th reunion. Bring your family photos. Sincerely, Princess Twilight Sparkle, Family Reunion President. P.S. Arrive prepared to spoil Princess Cadence in Shining Armor's new foal. The next reunion is scheduled a week after her due date. PPPS. Never mind about the comment on Sugar Cube Corner's rearrangement. It turns out that it was just Pinkie Pie being Pinkie Pie. Notice. The information contained in this mail transmission is intended by Princess Twilight Sparkle for the use of the named individual or transdimensional entity to which it is directed, and may contain certain encrypted or plain text information that is privileged, confidential, embarrassing of questionable origin, and/or protected from disclosure under applicable laws enforced by Princess, of which I am one, so you better watch it, Buster. Any unauthorized viewing, such as showing it to my brother, who has received a somewhat different letter, is strictly prohibited, visa by an error in the postal system, transdimensional scrying, quantum entanglement, psychic powers, changeling impersonation, failure to give your mail mare a blueberry muffin at least once a week, or any other means. Not intended as legal advice. For that, please contact Quantum Valbrand in the Canterlot Courthouse. Hello and welcome back to Common Thomas Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps as needed and very much appreciated, and helps to keep the lights on around here. I kind of like the lights, you know, and I like food, so I also need some money for that. Anywho, guys, this is weird. Also, Spike's mother showing up for Twilight's family reunion? Priceless. Anyhow, my throat is now very, very sore and very, very shot because I read this entire thing in one of my voices. Oh my word, I will never do that again. Yeah, sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and I hope that this video, as always, finds you well in body and mind. Hello and welcome back to another Pony&Wolf Productions video. My name, as always, is Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story Gull Sentry, written by Da Otter Guy. Just the premise I find very, very interesting. Also, it kind of makes me hungry. Yeah. Anyhow, here's an amazing list of those amazing people who enable me to eat once a day. Yes, I only eat once a day because more I cannot afford. So, yeah. Also, I will remind you that down below this video there is a big button, and if it is still red, then that means that you have not yet subscribed to Pony&Wolf Productions and will not be notified about our newest releases. So, get cracking, guys. Give that subscribe button a big, big lovin'. And now that I've been really, really creepy, let's get into this video. In which a seagull steals a sandwich. Hey, make sure to watch your sandwich. The gulls around here are terrible. Shining Armor looked back at the random passerby in confusion. They were in Canterlot, a landlocked city in the middle of Equestria. Gulls didn't live here. Thinking the advice pointless, Shining decided to just enjoy the sunny afternoon and eat his cucumber sandwich in peace. It had been made fresh that morning by his exasperated mother, who couldn't believe her adult son couldn't figure out 2 slices of bread with dressings. In Shining's own defense, putting 2 pieces of bread together was hard and knives were dangerous. Ignoring the fact that he was part of the Royal Guard. Spying an empty bench near a lamppost, he decided that it would be the place to enjoy his lunch. Taking a seat on the rough wood, he frowned at how uncomfortable it was. However, a seat was a seat, so he made do and ready to dine on his crisp, delicious squawk! Freezing mid-bite and keeping his sandwich held between his hoofs, Shining looked up towards the noise. Perched upon the post was a large orange Pegasus. His feathers were puffed up, his tongue flopped out of his mouth, and the look in his eyes told Shining that not a single thought happened behind them. The face on Shining's face could be best described as the one a son would have when they find out their best friend is dating their mom. A face he was intimately familiar with due to his ex-friend's Poindexter. Leaping off the post, the Pegasus landed next to Shining with a loud thump. He leaned into Shining's space and stared at the sandwich held in his hoofs. The Pegasus smacked his lips several times, giving a clear indication of what he wanted. Squawk! No! Shining, as he frowned his brow. Don't I know you from somewhere? The Pegasus shook his head. Wait, you're Flash Sentry. I work with you. Squawk! Why are you acting like a seagull? Shining demanded, then remembered a recent meeting he had attended as part of upper management. The budget cuts caused the guard to downsize on food again, didn't they? Squawk! Flash said as he hung morosely. I swear, every time we cut the budget, the guards resort to these dumb shenanigans. I mean, how hard is it to budget correctly? Flash, knowing that Shining didn't pay rent, buy food, and came from an upper-middle-class family, glared. Or he would have if he wasn't a seagull at that moment. Instead, following his honed gull instincts, he inched forward slowly as Shining started ranting about the lack of discipline in the guard. He opened his mouth as he came tantalizingly close to his prize of delicious, non-dumpster-dived sandwich. And another thing, guards are just so lazy that... Hey! Shining noticed the ruse, causing Flash to freeze mid-bite. Get away from my sandwich! In the age-old tradition of ineffective assaults against winged nuisances, Shining waved his hoofs erratically, causing Flash to squawk and flap back to his perch on the lamppost. He tried to glare, but hunger and generally seagullery just caused him to go back to his standard dopey expression with his tongue sticking out. You're not eating my sandwich! Go bother someone else! Shining exclaimed as he shook a hoof at Flash. Delving into his empty mind, Flash sorted through his useless thoughts and, once the inevitable, nothing was produced. He settled on idling on the ground as he tried to think of something to distract Shining. As he thought, he danced, for a given definition of the word. He hopped in tight circles while waving his wings in a weird fanning motion. It was the dumbest thing ever witnessed by Pony and caused Shining to start laughing uncontrollably. What are you? Shining started before a snort of laughter interrupted him. What is even? Shining laughed hysterically, tears in his eyes. Flash spun around and spied at the sandwich that was now held in Shining's shaky magic. Thus his strange pony bird brain deduced that was now the perfect opportunity to yoink it from him. Lunging forward, Flash opened his mouth, tongue lolling out, as he attempted to bite down on the delicious morsel. Just before he was able to bite it, the sandwich was yanked away from him. He face-planted into the dirt, causing some of it to spill into his mouth. Flash looked up to see the scowling face of Shining. No, he said firmly. Flash stood up. He stared at the sandwich, then at Shining. He then realized he was looking down on Shining, thus coming to the realization that there was a simpler way to get what he wanted. What are you doing? Shining asked nervously as Flash loomed over him. Stay back! Stopping just short of the cowering pony, Flash smacked his lips as Shining furrowed his brow, nervous suspicion coloring his expression. What are you? Ah! Squawk! 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 Flash said as he let out the war cry of his seagull people. He fapped Shining with his wings, barraging him with feathers he didn't have the budget to get preened since he was an underpaid guard. Stop! Knock it! Flash! Shining uselessly cried out. Seizing the opportunity, Flash rushed forward and grabbed the sandwich in his beak mouth. His prize acquired, he ceased his assault and leapt into the air, flying off to perch on one of the Canterlot Castle spires and be a nuisance to the diarchy who hated pigeons. "Squawk!" Flash cried out in victory as he messily munched on his reward. Playground bullying at its finest. Shining glared after Flash and made a note to complain about him. In the meantime, he reached into his bags and removed his backup sandwich. Caw! Freezing in place, Shining looked up at the lamppost to find a brown Pegasus with a blue mohawk looking down at him with a blank expression. Damn it! Hello and welcome back to Common Time with Visual Pony, where I remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps is needed and very much appreciated and helps to keep the lights on around here and to keep me eating. Well, I can only afford one meal a day, which is why this story especially makes me hungry, and the whole story was, oh, how hard can it be to budget correctly? Believe me, dude, I don't have a lot of money per month, and the little bit I get through Patreon is literally my lunch money. So, yeah. Eating for a month on roughly $100. That is not a lot, I can tell you that much. And even having one meal a day is kind of a luxury right now. So, yeah. Screw you, Shining. Seriously. Other than that, I find this story very, very random and deserving of that tag. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and as always, I hope to see you in the next video, and that this one finds you well in body and mind. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Pony&Wolf Productions video. My name as always is Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story Her Brother Doesn't Speak Much. Or doesn't talk much. Yeah. Her Brother Doesn't Talk Much by Alpha Scorpy. I am so sorry that I botched the name of the story my first try there, but since I am reading on my phone, the name was so long that my phone actually cut it off. Anyhow, as always, here is a wonderful list of all those awesome people who support this channel on Patreon and keep the lights on around here. And as always, I will also remind you that there's a big button under this video, and if it is still red, then you have not yet subscribed to Pony&Wolf Productions and will not be notified about our newest releases. What are you doing? Don't you want to be, notified about all the awesome videos that we are about to upload? Or, well, upload. A lot are already uploaded, but they will be going public. Oh my word. Or you could simply become a patron and, get on that list of awesome people supporting us and get all those stories way sooner. Anyhow, now let's get into the meat of the story, and I will shut up now. Only chapter. Her brother doesn't talk much, but she doesn't care. The yellow filly lives on a farm where every pony talks, and quite a lot. Her granny tells her many stories about how things work at the farm, and sometimes tales from times before she was even born. Her big sister is always talking too, about how much she loves working in the orchards, or about the other ponies in town, and sometimes about that big white castle on the distant mountain. The yellow filly also talks a lot. She has been talking tirelessly since she learned her first word. She talks and talks and talks and talks because every day she has something new to tell her family. It can be a new lesson learned in school, or a new pony she has met in town, or that she kicked a tree so hard that an apple, her first apple, fell down. However, her big brother doesn't talk much. To tell the truth, the yellow filly had noticed a long time ago that he was different. He was bigger and his coat was red like an apple, a much stronger color than her big sister's orange, or her granny's green, or her own yellow. His two favorite words were yup and nope. And for him, they were more than enough to answer almost anything. At first she had thought that was all that stallions and colts were like. But soon she found boy ponies who talked as much as her big sis and her granny. It was just her brother who didn't talk much. She had always remembered him that way, shy and silent, strong in the fields but nice and kind at home. Whenever her big sister or granny couldn't do it, he would help her bathe, back when she was very little. She would splash water all over the place and put a bit of soap on his nose, but instead of getting angry, he would just smile and say, "Yep." Once she was big enough, the yellow filly sometimes accompanied her brother when he went to work at the orchards. She liked to sit in the carriage, whether there were apples inside or not, as he pulled it all across the field. She would laugh and giggle and sometimes pretended that she was Princess Celestia herself traveling in the royal chariot. And her brother would just smile and say, "Yep." The filly also remembered those nights, when nightmares would wake her up and the darkness wouldn't allow her to go back to sleep. Sometimes it was her big sister who used to appear and help her to dream again, but other times it was her brother. He would stay beside her, waiting for her to fall asleep. And whenever she asked if there were monsters in the darkness, he would look around, smile, shake his head, and say, "Nope." Her brother was always working. If he wasn't in the fields collecting apples or planting new trees, he would be in the house or the barn, with a hammer in his mouth. Sometimes the filly would want to help him, but her brother wouldn't let her, because she was too small and she could be injured. So he would shake his head and say, "Nope." When that happened, the yellow filly would sit down on the grass, frowning, silently watching her brother work. But sometimes, when there was only a nail left to be nailed, her brother would smile, give the hammer to her, and let her give the final hits. Then he would look at the result and say prideful of his little sister, "Yup." There had been some times though when he had gotten mad at her, and at those times he had talked quite a lot, with words which were neither "yup" or "nope." The yellow filly remembered a particularly bad occasion when she had fought with other foals at the school because they were making fun of her brother because he didn't talk much. They were saying that he was dumb, and the yellow filly got angry. She remembered how her brother had picked her up from the fight. He had took her back to the farm, her coat dirty and with a few bruises. He had scolded her, using many new words. He didn't like her fighting with other ponies, even if it was to defend him. The yellow filly didn't understand at that time. She got angry with her brother and she called him ugly things before shutting herself in her room. That night the nightmares woke her up again, and she waited for some pony to come to her room. Maybe Granny or her sister, even though they were also angry at her. The one who arrived, however, was her big brother. He stood by her side, nice and calm as usual, and even explored the darkness for her again. He tucked her in and kissed her in the forehead as he used to do, as if the incident in the school hadn't happened at all. When the yellow filly asked if he would forgive her, he just smiled and said, "Yup." That is her brother. He doesn't talk much, but she doesn't care. It's night at the farm. Dinner has been eaten, the table is clean and 4 ponies relax around the fireplace, the oldest of them in a rocker. It has been a couple of years since the fight incident, and the yellow filly has grown quite a lot. She knows many new words, which help her to keep talking and talking and talking, just as much as her big sister or her granny. Like many fillies of her age, she isn't tired at all, despite it being quite late. That's why she groans when her big sister says that it's time for them to go to bed. Her granny agrees, stepping down from the rocker, saying that they all have worked a lot that day and that they deserve a good night of sleep. The yellow filly states that she isn't tired at all, that she still wants to play a bit more, and maybe hear a story from her granny. But her brother calmly picks her up by the mane and takes her upstairs. The filly crosses her forelegs and frowns, complaining about how they never let her do anything fun. Her brother giggles. They reach her bedroom and her brother puts her on the bed and helps her to untie the ribbon on her mane. The yellow filly takes her nightcap from under the pillow and puts it on her little head. The moon can be seen through the window, illuminating the landscape with its silver light, especially the white castle in the faraway distance, which shines shyly like a small candle. As she crawls under the blankets, the yellow filly asks her brother if he has ever seen Princess Celestia in person. He says, "Nope." She hugs her teddy bear and asks her brother if he thinks that Celestia could come to the town one day, or if maybe them could go to Canterlot. He just shrugs. The yellow filly doesn't try to create more conversation. She knows that she isn't going to get any answer more elaborated than any "yup" or "nope." But she's okay with that. That's how her brother is. Shy and not very talkative. He likes to work on the fields, keeping his thoughts to himself. He's not a friend of words. There's nothing wrong with that. He doesn't talk much. Also, on some special occasions, her brother opens a drawer and picks up a quite old and ragged book. It's one of the family treasures, a book of bedtime stories which had passed down for generations. He sits next to the bed and opens it, holding it in his front hooves. He clears his throat, takes a small breath of air, and starts narrating. The yellow filly smiles because she knows that her brother doesn't talk much, but when he does, his words are only for her. Once upon a time, in the magical land of Equestria. The end. Hello every pony and welcome back to Common Time with Visual Pony, where we'll remind you that you can support Pony&Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps as needed and very much appreciated and helps to keep the lights on around here. Also, you can buy merch down there. Did you know we have a merch store? There's a merch store down there. Yes, there actually is. Anyhow, so, what do I think about this story? I have basically been in a similar situation as Applebloom here. I was the youngest of three, and my oldest sister was the one who took care of me. When, to keep so that my mother could sleep, my parents could sleep, and I would sleep in her bed. She would take care of me and all that. The sad thing about that, however, is my sister, Petra was her name, Petra, she died when she was 15. It was 2 weeks before her 16th birthday. I only vaguely remember the day because I was like 5.5. But I do not remember her at all. Like, at all. Now, you could say that I'm a horrible person for that, but it's actually much deeper than that, because of that happening, because of her dying, my brain is basically, it has locked those memories away. Doctors actually say that they're still there, but, or very likely still there, that they are just locked away by trauma, but yeah, very sad about it, and yeah. So this story actually had to stop in the middle of it, because even though I do not remember Petra, just reading something like that and remembering, the stories that have been told to me about her, it kind of makes me a bit weepy, you might say. Anyhow, let me know if you had any older siblings who would do stuff like this for you. Sincerely yours, Visual Pony, and I hope, as always, that this story finds you well in body and mind.